It took several months for the travelers of the past, like Sapozhnikov and Rerik, to reach Mount Mustau. Perhaps they were in no hurry, but not all modern tourists can afford such a luxury. Despite time deficit, I believe Belukha is worth seeing. As they say, it's not time yet, and then it's no longer time to do something, and our entire lives fit in between, right? Thus, let's do our best to see Belukha during our lifetime. If you don't have time for a horseback tour, why not taking a helicopter? Helicopter tours are not cheap, especially taking an MTB-1 copter to the mountains. This helicopter can go as high as 6,000 meters above sea level and take on board up to 20 passengers, provided there's not much of other cargo. The cost of one flight hour is around 500,000 tenge. The price per person depends on the size of the group and on the tour itinerary, number of landings, duration of stops, as well as additional service. Altogether, in a favorable situation, a tourist can expect to visit Mustau paying $700 to $800. Traveling from Oskimane towards Belukha by taxi and then switching to horses, paying for all the logistics like accommodation, food and a guide, you will have to pay about the same amount and maybe even more, only the journey will take much longer. No doubt equestrian tours are much more exciting and charming. We'll talk about them a little later. Meanwhile, let's enjoy the view. We are flying over the Western Altai. Below there stretch green hills and riparian forests gradually replaced by the true Siberian taiga. After all, Kazakhstan's Altai belongs to southern Siberia. From above, birch, willow and mountain ash thickets look like green lace. Dense coniferous forests of fir and larch stretch along ridge slopes with shrubby undergrowth, and then come cedar groves, the kingdom of brown bears. As the helicopter flies low over the passes, the dark silhouettes of cedars are clearly visible. Going in the southeastern direction, the mountains get taller and steeper. We are entering the alpine tundra zone. From above, it seems that the plateau is covered with brownish meadow grass, but descending a little lower, it becomes clear these are actually dwarf alder thickets. If our pilot sat down for at least 5 minutes, we would surely gather full buckets of blueberry. When blueberries fully ripen, bears have their feast. The clubfoots wait for these happy days for the entire year. Looking carefully at the slopes, you can notice bears even from the helicopter. Taking a good shot with a cell phone camera through the podhole is impossible, but we hope to have a chance to walk in the taiga and see bears closer later on. They say it's not that hard. In recent years, the number of bears in the Western Altai has significantly increased. They even come to apiaries and campsites. It's good for attracting tourists, as everybody dreams of posting a couple of cool photos with good-natured bears in social networks. Yet, it's an additional headache for tourism operators. They need to take additional security measures, as in real life, bears are not as friendly as they might appear. In Russian, they call these snow-covered peaks Belukhs. The Kolzun Ridge on the Kazakhstan-Russia border is the highest in the Western Altai. Even in summer, there's always snow at the altitude of 2,500 meters. Yet it still feels we are in Siberia. In the Tian Shan Mountains, the snow zone begins above 3,500 meters, and in the Tibet at about 5,000 meters ASL. The rugged rock pileup at the intersection of the Turgusun and Ivanovsky ranges is called the Black Knot. It attracts mountain tourists like a magnet. The helicopter view cannot convey the gloomy grandeur of these ends. There are multiple streams, rivers and lakes, many of which are full of grayling. It would be great spending a week with a fishing rod in this gorgeous solitude. Maybe next time. We cross the Listvyaga Ridge and descend into the Bukhtarma River Valley. It originates in the glaciers of the southern Altai Range, crosses Katon-Karagay district and flows into the Bukhtarma Reservoir. With a full tank, the helicopter can go as far as 500 kilometers. In the district center, the village of Katon-Karagay, we make a short stop to refuel. We fly along the Bukhtarma until its confluence with the Birel River and then take the course towards Mustau along the Birel Valley. The famous funeral complex of the Scythian Saka era, popularly known among tourists as the Valley of Kings, is located on the Birel River's right bank. A lot of work and discoveries are still awaiting archaeologists, as out of 100 mounds dating 7th to 3rd centuries BC, the majority have not yet been examined. The village of Birel is located 6 kilometers from the historical monument at the foot of Mount Karashoki. Mustau is getting closer and the mountains become even more rough. Around Belukha, there lies a huge mountain junction with hundreds of glaciers. Many Altai ridges converge here, giving birth to the Yertes and Ob tributaries. We land on Equilibrium Lake at the altitude of 2,400 meters in between three peaks with romantic names: Faith, Hope and Love. I don't know who gave this lake such a name. Apparently it happened long before tourists started coming here on helicopters. The name probably hints to the fact that on its shore one can find peace of mind. A personal note, if you climb here on foot, then not only your perception of balance, but also your metabolism and maybe even your outlook on life will change as well. With the helicopter, the effect is quite light, but it still works. Let's give it a try. A wonderful view of Mustau opens from here, although the peak itself is hidden in fog. There are clouds around it almost always. Belukha is believed to reveal itself only to these with pure soul. The helicopter has left to attend to some important errands, and the pilots gave us 3 hours to bring our mental balance back and descend to the lower camp, where we will have a chance to eat. If Belukha does not open in 3 hours, it means we still need to enhance our vibration and try coming here again. The trail to the camp goes through a rock scree descending to a cedar grove. The journey is nice and the views are breathtaking, yet Belukha is still hiding in the fog. It starts to bother us. Flying to the famous mountain and not being able to see it would be really sad. The lower camp has glamping options. Here you can rent a comfortable tent, have lunch, charge batteries and wash in sauna. Yet many prefer to do without these services. Groups of amateur tourists have set up their tents on the side. The short rain drives everyone into their tents. The name of this popular tourist location comes from the Kokkol tungsten deposit developed during 1938-1954. The miners lived in the lower and worked in the upper camp. The enrichment plant and the mine were located 5 kilometers higher at Tungsten Mount. The picturesque ruins of log huts that once served as a school, a bakery, an office and a public bath are still around. They built a wooden bridge across the White Birel River to transport ore and various supplies for the workers' settlement. Although in poor condition, you can still use this 80 years old structure to cross the river. From the lower camp, you can take a slow walk to the famous Kokkol waterfall, one of the largest and most beautiful in the entire Altai. Warm Lake is another attraction on the way to Belukha. All lakes at this altitude have very cold water, but it is no problem swimming in this lake. Can it be the warm springs in its bottom? Our helicopter lands on the observation deck in front of the Birel Glacier. We got so lucky. The wind has finally blown away the cloud hiding Muztagh. And the majestic mountain has opened to us in all its splendor. It means it liked us, and this means that for the eternity we are not entirely lost creatures. You can live here for a week and still not see it. Muztagh, Uch Sumer, Belukha, Kadin Baji. Different peoples call the highest point of Siberia differently, yet they all consider it sacred and endow it with a variety of sacred properties. According to the stories of local residents, a German botanist, Karl von Leteboer, has described it in scientific literature for the first time in 1826. In 1835, a German doctor and nature scientist, Friedrich Gabler, visited the Katun and Birel glaciers and made their pencil sketches. Vasily Sapochnikov, professor of the botany department of Tomsk University, was the first one to launch a systematic study of Belukha and adjacent area. In the Swiss Alps, he gained insights on the then emerging mountaineering techniques. For several years, Sapochnikov went on expeditions to the Belukha area, and in 1898, together with his student Vinokurov and a group of guides led by the famous hunter Inokenti Matai, he managed to reach the mountain shoulders at the altitude of 4,050 meters. Today, Sapochnikov's photos play an important role in understanding the dynamics of glacier retreat. In the course of 100 years, the Birel Glacier has shrunk noticeably. By the way, later on, student Vinokurov founded the Mountain Society of the city of Verny. He can be rightfully considered the patriarch of our mountaineering school. Long focal length optics allow you seeing the cracks in the Birel Glacier sliding from the peak shoulder. Well-trained climbers sometimes use it to ascend the summit, but this route is much more difficult than the Katun Glacier route. As before, Muztagh makes an indelible impression on travelers. The feelings of these traveling here for weeks on foot or on horseback are probably stronger, but we are no less overwhelmed. The large stone in the middle of the glade is called the Rurik Rock. It is believed that if you touch it, you can make a wish and send it to the universe, being reasonable, of course. The stone is called the Rurik Rock, but frankly speaking, Nicholas Rurik had never approached Belukha from the Birel Glacier side. He created his famous painting series looking at the mountain from the Katun Glacier beyond the pass. He indeed has mentioned a certain sacred stone in his diary, but most likely it was done in an artistic and allegorical context. The Central Asian expedition led by Nicholas Roerich lasted from 1923 to 1928. During that time, the artist and his team drove 25,000 kilometers across the most inaccessible corners of Sikkim, Kashmir, Ladakh, Xinjiang, as well as Mongolia, Tibet and the USSR. The detachment entered the Altai in 1926 from Xinjiang through Zaysan. You can ask, for example, for money, but for this you need to work hard to earn them honestly. Or you can ask for respect, but to get it, you need to behave yourself with dignity. And if you ask for everything and do nothing yourself, it doesn't work this way, right? For an artist, I think, the greatness and beauty of the nature's forces served as a kind of symbol to help unlock our inner potential, free our spiritual forces, so to say. There is an opinion that in addition to artistic and natural science objectives, making sketches, collecting ethnographic materials and botanical collections, the Roerich expedition also had mystical tasks. Did the great artist take the Shambhala legend literally, or did he consider it a beautiful parable? There are different opinions regarding that. Some consider Belukha a portal between our reality and the subtle astral world. Others think of it as a poetic allegory. The Altai has always been a special place for different peoples. For Turkic nations, it is also the cradle of ethnogenesis. Groups of horseback tourists drive past us. They leave their vehicles at the parking lot near Lake Karakol and rent horses there. One horse will cost you 20,000 tenge per day. It is about 40 kilometers from the lake to the lower camp. An experienced horseman can cover this distance in one day. The tourists not thinking about setting any sports records can test themselves with the harsh romance of spending a night in tents. If you have a good tent, it really doesn't matter. Our recommendation is never try saving on the quality of your sleeping bag, as local nights are rather cold. As opposed to heli tours, riding a horse you can go slowly, stopping at will and taking pictures of the surroundings. Or you can sit for hours in a meditative state, feeling no anger or sadness, waiting for all your concerns and troubles to pass by you. Let the big cities make noise somewhere far away and people rush somewhere still not being able to make it on time. No need to hurry anywhere being here. We'll cook a nice dinner, enjoy our meal, and then might even take a nap. Meanwhile, our horses will have some rest as well. It is so quiet and calm here. Unless, of course, a bear doesn't happen to pay a visit at night. Keep in mind that all this beauty is located within the premises of the Katun Karagai National Park. Booking the tour through an agency, you don't need to worry about whatever formalities. They will take care of everything without your participation. Organizing the tour yourself, you will need to contact the park's tourism department in advance and get all the necessary information and instructions. There are quite comfortable guest houses at Lake Karakol. You can also order a sauna, rent a boat, and purchase a fishing permit. All these types of outdoor activities fall under the definition of ecotourism, yet there is another very interesting type of ecotourism called wildlife watching. This is an entire separate world to which we will devote a special episode. As for now, the pilots seem to be starting their sky machine and don't look like they will wait for us. Off we go!